Hi, welcome to class. My name is Don LaFon, Professor Don, and in this week, in our Cisco 2 class, we are covering two modules, Module 10 and Module 11. Both deal with security concepts. Now, Module 10 primarily is a concepts module. There are no actual assignments in Module 10, just reading and reviewing the content. Module 11 is where you're going to get your actual assignments and mitigation for the concepts that they introduced in Module 10. So what I've done is I've actually taken some of the PowerPoint slides from the Module 10 presentation and moved them to the Module 11 presentation. Instead of talking about security concern, and then in the second presentation, mitigation, I just moved the security concern to the Module 11 presentation, so then it's security concern, mitigation. It makes the second presentation much longer, 70 slides. First presentation now is only about 15 slides. So I am going to separate the two presentations, but the first presentation is only going to be about not even 20 minutes or so. The second one you can count on being an hour or a little bit more than an hour, maybe an hour and a half. I don't think it'll be that long. But let's go ahead and get started. Again, if you're watching this and you want to open up the PowerPoint to follow along, I've actually put I guess I should name it truncated, but there's two presentations. The one that came with it presented as the creators of the course gave it to me. That is available, as is the one that has been shortened. And then the second presentation has been expanded. Those are both inside of the modules. You'll see both presentations. Today, for this, the means of this presentation, you'll want to open up the second presentation. All right, let's get going. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And I am going to, I need to drag this over here. And I need to start the presentation. Begin. If for some reason for some reason you can't hear me anymore, I need you to just blurt out that you can't hear me if I'm doing something incorrect. My camera last time I taught a night class twice, it just stopped audio. So there is a way that I can get that going again. But the students had to tell me that the audio had cut out. So please interrupt me and I will fix the problem. All right, so I also have to minimize this. And I think everything is set up now for the presentation. So Module 10, LAN Security Concepts. So in this module, I'm going to explain how vulnerabilities compromise LAN security. We'll talk about endpoint security. We'll explain how to use endpoint security to mitigate attacks. We'll explain how AAA, access control, and 802.1x are used to authenticate LAN endpoints and devices. You probably know a little bit about AAA if you've taken a security class. We spend a lot of time talking about authorization, access, and accounting. I think those are the three. Layer 2 security threats, identify layer 2 vulnerabilities. And this is where I've moved the slides from layer 2 security threats, MAC address table attacks, and LAN attacks over to the second presentation. I'll show you when we get there. So endpoint security. So network attacks today, the news media is always talking about how enterprises are being attacked from outside bad guys. Simply search the internet for latest network attacks to find up-to-date information on current attacks. Most likely, these attacks will involve one or more of the following: distributed denial of service attack, DDoSs. This is a coordinated attack from many devices called zombies with the intention of degrading or halting public access to an organization's website or resource. Then there's data breaches. That's when an organization is able to attack the data servers on another organization or hosts or compromise to steal confidential information. Usually usernames and passwords, social security numbers, those kind of things. That's what the bad guys are after, so then they could perhaps use the data to their advantage, maybe in opening up credit cards, things like that. Or worse, stealing an organization's secrets. It's also malware. This is an attack in which the organization's hosts are infected with malicious software that cause a variety of problems. For example, ransomware such as WannaCry encrypts the data on a host and locks access to it until a ransom is paid. Various network security devices are required to protect the network perimeter from outside access. These devices could include one or more of the following: a virtual private network, a VPN-enabled router. It provides a secure connection to remote users across a public network and into the enterprise network. VPN services can be integrated into the firewall. Next generation firewalls, NGFWs, provide stateful packet inspection, application visibility and control, a next generation intrusion prevention system, NGIPS, advanced malware protection, and URL filtering. Then there's network access control, a NAC, it includes authentication, authorization, and accounting. I might have gotten one of those wrong a minute ago, but that's what AAA stands for: authentication, authorization, and accounting. In larger enterprises, these services must be incorporated into an appliance that can manage access policies across a wide variety of users and device types. The Cisco Identity Service Engine, ISE, is an example of NAC device, a NAC device. Now, we don't actually get into configuring any of this equipment or using any of this equipment. This course is all about routers in general. We do some, for example, we will do, in Cisco 1, you learned how to save passwords locally. Well, we do in this course teach you how to save your passwords remotely on a database, of credentials. We learn that in this course, but we don't actually use these advanced pieces of equipment. When you move on in your studies, you will learn how to incorporate these pieces of equipment in your network. Endpoints are hosts which commonly consists of laptop, desktop servers, and IP phones, as well as employee-owned devices, BYODs. Endpoints are particularly susceptible to malware-related attacks that originate through email and web browsing. Your users are going to get viruses and malware, and that presents a danger to your network because they might inadvertently share an access to a bad guy or data that's on their computer with a bad guy. Endpoints have typically used traditional host-based security features such as antivirus, anti-malware, host-based firewalls, and host-based intrusion prevention systems, HIPS. Endpoints today are best protected by a combination of NAC, AMP software, and email security appliance, ESA, and a web security appliance, WSA. Now, I can't zoom in because I probably can zoom in now. I hate doing this because I'm gonna possibly freeze. But here, as you can see, your hosts that are accessing the networks, both wired and wirelessly, are accessing intrusion devices and other security devices that are ultimately protecting the equipment of the enterprise. Cisco Email Security Appliance, the ESA device, is designed to monitor Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, SMTP. The Cisco ESA is constantly updated by real-time feeds from Cisco Talos, which detects and correlates threats and solutions by using a worldwide database monitoring system. This threat intelligence data is pulled by the Cisco ESA every 3 to 5 minutes. So it is like Norton on steroids. Your Norton on your computer each evening, or however often you have it set up, once a week perhaps, downloads the newest virus codes into its antivirus software on your personal computer. Well, that's what the SMTP does. I'm sorry, that's what the ESA does. But it does it every 3 to 5 minutes so that it is aware of any kind of dangers. What it does is it blocks known threats. It remediates against stealth malware and that evade initial detection from other pieces of gear. It discards emails that have bad links. It blocks access to newly infected sites, and that's why you need every 3 to 5 minutes. And it encrypts content in outgoing email to prevent data loss. The Cisco Web Security Appliance is a mitigation technology for web-based threats. It helps organizations address the challenges of securing and controlling web traffic. The Cisco WSA combines advanced malware protection, application visibility and control, acceptable use policy controls, and reporting. Cisco WSA provides complete control over how users access the internet. Certain features and applications such as chat, messaging, video, and audio can be allowed, restricted with time-based limits, or blocked according to the organization's requirements. The WSA can perform blacklisting of URLs, URL filtering, malware scanning, URL categorization, web application filtering, and encrypted and decrypted web traffic. So this is what can what can stop you from going to watch Netflix when you're at work. That's a very G-rated security that can be added to the list. But of course, there's lots of other things that they don't want you doing when you're at work, and I'm not going to mention some of those other things. Access control. Authentication with a local password. Now, we have learned previously how to protect your access with putting a password on a local device, such as protecting your VTY 0 through 15, right? Or just maybe 0 through 4 if that's all you want to access with a password. And remember, login, what it ultimately did was it set a local login as our database. It looked at a local database to find the sign-in and password information. Now, we are going to learn in the second presentation that we can, how to configure for a remote access. I think we do. It might be in this one, but I'm pretty sure it's in the next one. Also, SSH and how we can secure it down to SSH, and sorry, here are the configuration to lock down whether you can use Telnet, there it is, Telnet or SSH, and those again are local database methods. Now, you wouldn't want to, in a production environment, you would not want to be locally authenticating because ultimately every single computer would have to be configured, and there are chances that each individual computer could be hacked. What you want to do is you want to have a remote access authentication system, and that's where the three components of AAA come into play: authentication, authorization, and accounting. Now, they provide the primary framework to set up access control on network devices. AAA is a way to control who is permitted to access the network. That's authenticate. That's what we're talking about with the local login. What they can do when they are there, and to audit what actions they perform while they're on the network. So if somebody does something bad, you can look back, or not even bad intentionally. They could maybe inadvertently set up some sort of a restriction that brings the network down, and you could go back and you can see through accounting who did what when, and you can see where the error may have been made unofficially. Now, local and server-based are two common methods of implementing AAA authentication. Local AAA authentication method that method stores username and passwords locally in a network device, for example, a Cisco router. Users authenticate against the local database, and local authentication is ideal for small networks. And they just show a very simple picture here showing that a user tries to log in, the router sends back some sort of challenge saying, hey, give me your username and password, and then it checks it in its own database before it sends it on to the next to the network itself. Now, server-based AAA authentication, in the server-based method, the router accesses a central authentication server. The authentication server contains the username and passwords for all users, regardless of what computer they are using. That's why when you're in a classroom, for example, you can sign in on any computer, not just the one you're sitting on. You can move to the left or right and still be able to access the network. The router uses either the remote authentication dial-in user service radius or the terminal access control system, controller access control system, TAC-ACS plus protocols to communicate with the AAA server. When there are multiple routers and switches, server-based authentication is more appropriate. And we use this when we're talking about, well, there's way too much good stuff going on in this slide. I believe that I need to get out of the slide and move this stuff around, because you're not supposed to see, it's supposed to fly in, I believe. Hang on a second. So anyway, so the slide itself is more important than these things. I want to pause my recording just for a second. Hang on a second. Where are you, recorder? Pause. Okay, I fixed the slide. I apologize for that. So authentication is automatic and does not require users to perform additional steps after authentication. Now, authorization is set up ahead of time, basically determining what you can do when you're in the network. A great example of authentication is your credit card. Authorization. You have the card. That is your authentication. Authorization is how much you can spend on your credit card, right? And accounting, accounting in a credit card example would be how you can actually spend your money. For example, when you get your bill, you can actually see how you spent your money. So that's how, after the effect, you can go back in and you can look at a credit card statement and you can say, oh, that's why I'm broke all the time. My wife had I had the credit card. My wife will say, it's always me online shopping, never my wife. Now, what is this guy doing here? What is that doing there? I'm going to pause it again. Hang on a second. My presentations get better over time because when I see a problem, I fix it. I really appreciate your patience when I run into a problem like this and I'm able to fix a problem. That ensures that the problem doesn't happen again the next time around. Now, AAA accounting collects and reports usage data. This data can be used for such purposes as auditing and billing, the collected, oops, hang on just a second. Always have to do this. The collected data might include the start and stop collection times, executed commands, number of packets, and number of bytes. A primary use of accounting is to combine it with authentication. The server, the AAA server, keeps a detailed log of exactly what the authenticated user does on the device, as shown in the figure. This includes all executive and configuration commands issued by the user. The log contains numerous data fields indicating the username, the date and time, and the actual command that was entered by the user. This information is useful when troubleshooting devices. It also provides evidence for when individuals do bad things and perform some sort of malicious act. So here you can see just in a conceptual level what it looks like. So the user logs in and is authenticated using their username and password. Then they are granted access from the server, and then they start typing. And first of all, they're checked, are you allowed to do that command? If they're allowed to do it, then that command is performed. And the show command in this example is shown, whatever it was that they did. And then show run, are they allowed to? Nope, not allowed to show run. Okay, command denied. That's what accounting, well, actually, that's what your this accounting shows everything that's happened. Your ability to get things done is authorization. All right, IEEE 802.1x standards is a port-based access control and authentication protocol. This protocol restricts unauthorized web stations from connecting to a LAN through publicly accessible switch ports. The authentication server authenticates each workstation that is connected to a switch port before making any available service offered by the switch or network that you're on, it's connected to. When 802.1x performs port-based authentication, the devices in the networks have specific roles. The client, that's the supplicant, and this device running 802.1x compliance client software, which is available for wired and wireless networks. That is the device running the software. Then there's the switch. That's the authenticator. The switch acts as an intermediary between the client and the authentication server, which we're going to talk about in a moment. It requires identifying information from the client, verifies that information with the authentication server, and relays a response to the client. Another device that could act as an authenticator is a wireless access point. Now, the authentication server, this server validates the identity of the client and notifies the switch or wireless access point that the client is or is not authorized to access the LAN. And then I have a couple pictures here. I think I added the second one. This just shows the layout. We have the supplicant requires access. The authenticator controls the physical access to the network. And then the authentication performs the actual client authentication. And it looks like this in the actual devices here with a Radius server. Your devices log in. Oh, here's a client. That's the person asking for access to the switch, and the switch authenticates it to the Radius server. And then if allowed, then the client is able to get to the devices. Layer 2 security threats. Well, I've moved that to Module 11. MAC address table attack. I've moved that to Module 11. And LAN attacks. I've moved those to Module 11 as well. So that's all for this first presentation. Like I said, it's only about 25 minutes or so, and we're done with this guy. I'm gonna stop recording. I'm gonna stop sharing first. If you have any questions about the content that I just covered, go ahead and watch Module 11 first before you ask your questions inside of the help discussion forums, because Module 11 has a much more in-depth and detailed information about all of the challenges, the security threats that you're going to face as working on networks as a Cisco network technician, and mitigation techniques. If Module 11's presentation doesn't clarify your questions, then we will then ask your questions inside of the help discussion forum, or ask me when I'm done with the Module 11 presentation. So that's it for this presentation. I'm Don LaFont, Professor Don, and hang on, we're going to go right to our Module 11 presentation.